Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MJ Games. I am Michael, and today we're looking at a park called Carrowinds Wild Kingdom, and it was created by L Noble underscore, and this is created for the PS4. And before I talk about the description of the park, I want to introduce a special guest that I have who's joining me for this park tour, and he's stepping over from the PC world. I have Ryan from RyRy 2312. Did I get that
Hey
right this time?
guys. Yeah, you got it right, Mike. How are you? You all right?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Very good. Thanks for the invite. Part looks good in the intro, so let's see what we got. And yeah, coming over from PC to console, so let's see what we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as I said, the RyRy 2312 is the name of Ryan's YouTube channel. So make sure to go check it out because he just got done with his latest park about a month ago, if I'm remembering correctly, and really, really an excellent park. And so the description, there's not much of a description, but it just talks about, he's finally finished his park because it has been on the workshop at bits and pieces for a while. Um,
Yeah.
and please leave a like. So make sure to go download and rate. And Ryan, I know we haven't seen an overshot view of the park yet, but what are some of your initial thoughts as we're just seeing some cinematic shots of the park?
I've got to get used to the whole console thing. So for me, it looks quite large, which is quite nice. The detail looks good, very picturesque. You've got some great sight lines by the looks of it with the Alpine. Obviously, we just had the adventure section and so forth. So yeah, it's a fun part to go. I can't wait to give it a go.
Yes, and this one right here looks to be a Terran type recreation, or not necessarily recreation, but at least modeled after it.
Has that
And what?
vibe, and then a
Yeah,
Nemesis by the looks of it, kind of Nemesis from Alton Towers in the UK, maybe.
yeah, I think so. And now that you mentioned that, I did spotlight. I just remembered it's been a while, but I just spotlighted a part or as an individual coaster recreation by this creator, and this creator recreated Wicker Man. And so maybe because I know this park's called Carrowinds, so it looks like I don't know if the creators from the UK, but it's definitely gotten some inspiration from some of the UK parks as we're now kind of seeing the overshot view of the park. Man, I just love how this wooden coaster is just on this mountain. Like that looks really awesome.
It creates that berm around the park, which is something I try and always do. So when you're at eye level, you've never kind of got a view outside of the park. And
Hmm.
kind of in my latest park, as many people have said, even on the coasters, you don't really get the view out, which is nice. So that you can kind of see that even at this level, it works really well. So yeah, I'm actually excited to get in here. This looks good.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I've tried to work on as well is I just don't like how in Planet Coaster the park just kind of ends, right? There is no detailing on the exterior or anything. So anything you can kind of do to change the sightline for guests. Because ultimately, even though most of the time we look at parks, we're looking from the elevated view. What matters is how it looks from guest standpoint, right?
And that's yeah, that's key to everything. And if anybody does come over and have a look at myself, you'll see throughout the builds, I'm always looking whenever I start anything like an entrance street or a main plaza or something, just look around every single time you place something, even a ride or something. But you can see that's actually been taken into consideration here, which looks quite good.
Hmm. And we're actually going to walk through the park in Plipcam mode. And the way I've kind of got it set up is after we go on a coaster, we'll kind of do a zoom out real quick just to kind of look at the layout and then go back into Plipcam. And right here we got the entrance. I just wonder if maybe he used the Carowinds name because that was a sign that came in game. Um, so that could be a possibility. But I love these kind of building styles right as you enter.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a variety, which is nice. They're kind of like semi-Western, just I don't know, timber look, adventure feel. They kind of got a little bit of
Hmm.
everything, which works.
Yeah, it almost kind of gives me like a mixture of that kind of with the coloring, and I guess those Adobe pieces before was almost like a African style a little bit too. But like you
The
said,
the
there's the.
thing the thing I'm really liking is that it feels detailed. And I've
Hmm.
been watching a few of the console parks recently, and I know you guys are restricted on piece counts, etc. But although I don't know the full restrictions, but the nice thing is here is that the walls aren't plain. It's just finishing details, the
Hmm.
edging, the timber around the edges. Something I try and always do. It's all about the layers. So you have your base kind of wall layer, and then just have little bits hanging over, little bits hanging off, and this is working really, really nice. The detail in this is lovely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's one of the things that takes a while to learn, at least for creators that are like me, is learning how to really detail buildings, just to give it that extra sense of realism and make it look nice. And I was, as I was filming this, I was like, wait, where's the path that goes to the right of the park? But I had passed it up a couple times,
It's
kind of hidden
it's
them.
I call it a step process. I'm still yet to figure out how many steps I actually want to finish it off with, but it's just a step by step, and you start with a base layer, which is placing the coaster. Second layer is placing your paving to coincide with that area, then your terrain to coincide with that, and then add your bridges and so forth. You then start with the building main structure and then work out from there. And this just seems to have the same kind of logic. It just seems to work. It's really nice. It's utilized bits that just work really well with the buildings.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just love this inversion right here. And it seems like the creator really had the thought of path interaction
Yep.
in mind whenever creating the majority of the coasters. And to me, I love doing that because I mean, I love seeing that in theme parks, right? When you can kind of interact with the coaster almost or feel like you're close to it.
Well,
That's
my latest one, pretty much every coaster, but yeah, I
yep,
know what you mean.
yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
it's one of those things. It's like this bit just there, that bit, that corkscrew, it just went through. If you had a view slightly to the left there, you have it coming straight at you, and that's exactly the same as Nemesis at Alton Towers. It comes
Mhm.
out of the ground over the rock through the corkscrew, and that's replicated just exactly the same there. It looks great, really, really does.
Yeah, is Nemesis, would that be considered, or is that your home park?
It's about 100 miles away, but yeah, it's the main theme park in the UK for coasters. But then, to be fair, we have them spread out all over the UK.
Yeah, gotcha. Real quick, as we're starting on this coaster, was always like
Yeah.
getting people's opinions from the UK about this. The the Thorpe Park hyper coaster that they're being built. Is that it? Um, does that excite you, or is it you're wanting something different than that? What are your thoughts on that coaster?
My
Do you
thoughts
have
on
any?
that coaster. I've had a little bit of a look at it. I've watched a few semi-created POVs, but let's just quickly ride this, and we'll finish up once we've done this. Have a look ride first.
Sounds good to me. All right, so that was honestly I can't remember the name of it, but that was the Nemesis style inverted coaster. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Very, very quick. But yeah, no, very, very. How can I put it? A good package all round, really. I'll probably say a little bit more detailing within the tunnels, but then I
Mm-hmm.
understand the reasons not, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
on face value, above ground, everything is just perfect. It worked really well. Um, Fairly smooth. I don't think there was much smoothing needed, to be honest. But I'd probably say
Mm-hmm.
just the first couple of versions, maybe just a little bit bigger to suit the speed. But it is lagging a little bit this end, so I'm not sure if it was fully perfect, but it looked good. Really, really good ride.
Yeah. Or I mean, even just maybe even turning the friction up if needed. If changing the inversion might mess up the track, or you know how the pre-made loops, if you
Yeah,
change it, it kind of messes up around it and stuff. But I love this ride skin right here. This is awesome.
I didn't even notice it was a ride. I thought it was just a structure. What ride was it?
I guess that's how you know you've done a good job with the ride skin when,
It blends in. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And we got a little walk area here. Um,
Yeah, I love
you
doing
know,
stuff like this. Love doing stuff like this. Just create little viewpoints.
it's just annoying how like the guests don't really use it how you always want them to use it. like you make this great plaza area with all these seats and these restaurants, and then the guests never use it.
It's if I remember correctly, I haven't really focused on it in the last couple of builds, but the first build, I think it was Pyrolandia I did. You have to have them on the PC version anyway, within a certain vicinity to the actual shops. If you have them too far away, they just won't go to them.
Oh, oh, that makes sense. Okay. Well, and I don't. One thing too with console that you have too large of a park. Like my most recent park that I finished, 3 towers. It almost seemed like the park was dead, and the reason was like you can only have 4,000 guests in the park. So if you have too many rides,
Yep.
too big of a park, the park looks dead because everybody's literally waiting in a line.
And this is the thing people say on my reviews, that my queues aren't long enough. Well, there's a reason for that, because if you have queues that are hugely long, they'll take 1,000 guests.
Mm-hmm.
So then the distribution of guests throughout the park aren't even. So what we got here then?
We got a suspended coaster.
I've never actually built one of these. Never. I love that skin there is just perfect.
Yeah, it is. This is really nice because I built one of these yesterday, and it is tough to get this thing not swinging like crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But to be fair, if you have seen a POV of these in real life, some of them swing pretty quick to one side. So,
I've been on one.
Yeah, it was a lot more fun than I thought. But watching POVs, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's kind of whips you there to one side pretty quick.
Is it Ninja, or was Ninja? Six Flags Magic Mountain, was it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's still there, if I'm remembering correctly. I haven't been on that one. I went on the one at Kings Island. This is cool. I mean, I really liked it. I thought the layout was nice. It gives really good interaction with the paths below and stuff. And I thought the spinning was honestly the best I've seen in console, at least, to where it seems realistic and nothing was too quick to one side or anything like that.
No, I mean, I'm getting a very low frame rate this end, so my apologies. But yeah, no, it's coming. It works with the area perfectly. You'd think a coaster with track like that all the way through would just be a bit of an eyesore, but it kind of just works. It's suits the area well.
Yeah, maybe the only thing I'd add would be kind of around some of the supports and stuff. Maybe I just went over there to kind of look at some of that little detailing and see the coaster come by. There's one part of the coaster gets fairly low to the ground, and you don't have the, as you guys say in the UK, don't die fencing around it. So I'd probably add that. But what's so weird is I've seen at some parks, like actually at Carrowinds, the Fury 305 coaster, on some parts where the coaster track's not actually low to the ground, they don't have fencing around, so like you could literally go up and hug a coaster support.
Ooh.
Like it's just really strange. I've never actually seen that where a coaster supports are just out in the open where they're not protected like that,
I'm sure there is where I've been. I can't quite recall. I'm sure Busch Gardens, Florida has some around Montu or Shikra. I'm pretty sure where the water splash is on Shikra, you can walk and literally they're like in the pathway. I'm sure they are. But it's been a few years since I've been. So
yeah. Now just talk about the one. I've never been there. I have seen videos and stuff, and it's the only negative about Plipcam is when you walk up the queue, you're basically bouncing off everybody. Yeah, so this wooden coaster is I just love the look of it, kind of from the queue.
The color as well. It's just brightened a little bit.
For sure.
It's nice banking.
Yeah, it does for sure. And it carries great speed throughout too, for not having any really big hills.
About one frame every 2 seconds, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, so I don't know about you, Ryan, but that just the overall design of that is pretty amazing. How it keeps up its speed the whole time, and it's almost like it's leveled, right? Like every time you go a little bit down the mountain, like it never goes back up the mountain, really, if that makes sense.
No, and that's the
I just
art.
love it.
That's the art to a good wooden coaster, is not having you have the right height hill and then carrying the speed all the way through instead of just having one huge drop. If you know what I mean, you kind of carry that level all the way down, and that was what was done really well there. And the banking was lovely. The way it floated over the actual mounds was just perfect. Loads of airtime so I could see. Yeah, really nice woody. Good coaster.
Yeah, and I like the station too. That one's called Hill Runner. I did get the name to that one. Yeah, well done with the station. You know, adding a little transfer track, not much detail other than just having the track there, but I do like seeing that backstage stuff because I feel like there are not a lot of people on console that take the percentage to do that. So
That's
it's very
too,
high up here.
one of two things I don't do with any of my parks is car parking and track transfers, etc., purely to keep the piece count down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I've started doing parking lot just because I kind of want to go with the whole as realistic as I can get part.
Yeah.
But I kind of tend to make too big of parking lots, and then I can't put cars in there because there's not enough piece count. So it kind of is this awkward tarmac space with no cars, but yet you got 4,000 people in the park. So
It's kind of how I plan my parks. The way I look at it is every ride for me is between 5 to 10,000 piece count. That's the way I look at it, each ride. So that includes station
Okay.
building area. You know, if you have a flat ride within that main theme area, etc., 5 to 10,000 pieces. Where if you were to build a transfer track in each place, you're probably looking at 1,000 pieces minimum on PC, because obviously with Theme Maker Toolkit. And with the parking area out front, you're looking at 10,000 pieces minimum. You know, for me, that's taking 3 to 4 rides out of my park. So that's kind of how I
Right.
look at it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I love the kind of layout here. You know, a lot of different buildings, and they're all kind of carrying the same style. And this one's called Skylift, and I forgot to reopen it when I was recording this because I noticed something that I'm going to point out here in a second after we go on the coaster. So it's still in test mode because I filmed this part afterwards. But it's just one of these traditional kind of coasters that I will never ride at a theme park because they rough as can be.
It's very similar to the one I finished in Fundland.
Yeah.
No, one thing I'm liking about this park is as you walk around, moving into the different areas, it's pretty seamless. I know it's generically, it all feels very similar, but it's seamless into the slightly different themes that they are.
Yep. And that's my bad right there. To be fair, forgot to cut that part out. But yes, I wanted to make sure I was in the right seat. But yeah, I agree. I think to me, that's why I kind of feel like it is a Cedar Fair style park because it's not really themed, but yet, kind of like you said, it still looks nice. Everything's seamless. You do have individual bits that kind of have some theming to it,
Yeah.
but you don't have necessarily like a pirate area, a sci-fi area, or anything like that.
It's just nicely woven together, which is really good. Just with those little hints of different, just make it feel different which area you're in. It's nice. It's just nice. It's just quaintly done.
Yeah, and a nice little family ride.
Yeah.
Wasn't too jerky at all.
There's no spinning on that one, so that would have been all right. Or did I miss the spinning?
Yeah, and so if you can see here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What'd you say about the spinning?
There was no spinning, I don't think.
Oh yeah, I forgot those were supposed to spin. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to point out here is there's a coaster that's stuck up on the block section because this is set on block sections. But yeah, nobody's riding the ride because it's a small kids ride. So what I'm showing right here is if you just change it to standard, that station's long enough where you could fit 4 cars.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the suggestion that I would give right there, just because you had 1 or 2 coasters that were just stuck on block sections because, well, nobody was riding the ride. So,
Yeah, that's one thing a lot of people forget about is the in run to the station is it's best to put a couple of block stations on there as well, just so that they have that timely fashion, so they don't get stuck out on the circuit.
Yeah. Well, and you see that in real life now with like the newer hyper / giga coasters, dive coasters. Like dive coasters have the one in the middle. Gosh, I love churros. That's why I just had to zoom in. Getting a churro theme park is just the best.
I'm a crepe fan.
Yeah, they kind of have all their a crepe fan. Okay,
yeah, chocolate crepe at Epcot would do me lovely.
Yeah, like ooh. And I was my wife and I went to Disney last year, and which this is a beautiful look at the RMC right here.
That is a good view.
Nice little plaza. But yeah, Disney was a lot of fun. Everything there is expensive except their churros were like $2 for $3, so it's pretty awesome.
I haven't been for a number of years, but I do wish to go again one day.
Yeah, I think it's like for me. I wonder. So what you are like? Do you like theme parks more or more like amusement parks?
I've
like more on thrills, more on theme.
I've never been to a Six Flags park or anything like that, so I can't really say amusement because in the UK they're kind of half theme, half amusement. I don't know. You probably class that as an amusement park.
That makes sense.
But like you see the likes of Wicker Man and stuff like that. To me, that's a themed area, so that's kind of a themed park, as you'd say. Not like Disney, as in their theming, because that's just beyond belief. But one day I'd love to do a 3-month tour of America and go around all the roller coasters and theme parks. I think it'd be great. Go to all of them.
Yeah, we're just looking at stats here real quick. Yeah, I think. I mean, I want to go to the parks in the UK just because, like, whether you look at like Nemesis or Galactica or like, why am I forgetting the one that's got 13 inversions?
Smiler
or 14 inversions.
Smiler. One of the I like it when it has brand new wheels on it, but when it doesn't have new wheels on it, it's not the nicest of coasters to ride. It's really not.
Yeah, or like Saw the ride or stuff like that. It's like really heavily themed as well, but like. I'd much rather pay $50 for a ticket to go to Kings Island or Cedar Point or a Six Flags park than pay 3 times that amount to go to Disney.
Yeah, there is that. There is that.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. So, but man, and the first drops on RMCs are just like there's nothing that matches.
I've never ridden one. I can't wait to. We're hopefully going to plan a tour around Europe and visit a couple, I think.
Oh yeah, the one in Holland, I think,
Wallaby.
called Wildfire.
Wildfire is Sweden.
Is that Denmark?
Yeah.
Sweden. Okay. What's the one in Holland? There's one in Holland. Oh, Untamed. That's it. That's at Wallaby, Holland. That one looks awesome.
Yes. Zadra is the one at Poland, Energylandia.
Yeah, with that insane 0G stall that looks about 180 feet in the air
Just
or
like
something. Yeah, this is a really good coaster.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is nice. It's the theming, just the little rocks and plants around it. It just adds that detail. It just gives it a whole new depth. It just works so well.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And that view there with the lift hill. Good. Good, really good coaster.
Yeah, I thought it was smooth too. I think you can tell there that a 0G roll was using the in-game piece just because of, how kind of narrow the height of it is.
Yeah.
But overall, like, I think the coaster, this is my favorite so far in the park. Like, I love that wooden coaster as well, but this little element right here is really well done. Kind of gives me those B&M hyper vibes when they kind of have a turnaround. But really, really well done.
What amazed me there was the amount of track in such a small area. That was a very good layout.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that's tough too a lot of times is, making sure that you have a realistic looking layout and all the elements are realistic, because then here at the end you have a lot of these little airtime moments which are what RMC is kind of known for, is having some of these crazy ejector air times that just you feel like you're being thrown
There's a
everywhere.
view from I think it's Lightning Rod that I want to go on it. Is it at Knott's Farm?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Knott's Lightning Rod, or is that Dolly World?
Are you talking about the
Yes.
RMC lightning rod? No,
You
it's
get
a
shot up the
Dollywood.
hill, don't you? And then you kind of come down the hill, but it looks like they're bouncing
Mm-hmm.
down the hill. It looks absolutely amazing. Really does it good fun.
Yeah, I think it's got the first ever quad down or
We
something
ha
like
we
that.
haven't ridden that coaster yet, have we? The one that's like Taron, I don't think. Just the views. The views were looking so good there as it kind of stalled as it come around the bank there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And another nothing too crazy with the station, but it gets the job done. And that's another thing I would suggest here is you see all the boats that are kind of stacked up is just shorten the amount of boats.
That's one thing a lot of people overlook is the waiting times and the loads. You know, a lot of times if you keep the
Mm-hmm.
peep count low, guest count low, should we say? You know, you should change them to kind of any load limit, and then change the timings to about 28 to 32 seconds between the intervals and leaving the stations, and then you get a good time of boats going round, and they're equally spaced for you.
Okay, that's good to know. 'Cause I haven't really done a lot of work with track rides
The
like.
way I kind of do it, I do a bird's eye view. I build it, do a bird's eye view, and then basically just fast forward the game, and then just put it in test mode, and literally just no, not in test mode actually. You need to have it in play mode, and then just adjust the timings accordingly. And then as you've got it in fast forward mode, you'll see one come
Hmm.
into the station, one would have just left, and then you may have 4 or 5 boats equally spaced out, subject to your timings of leaving the station. It just makes the game look better because they're evenly spaced out for you. Takes
Oh, that's nice
time,
to
but
know.
it's worth doing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, but it adds that realism of everything
Yeah,
working and
yeah,
flowing
and
properly,
that's
right?
that again is just a slight oversight that people sometimes do and don't look at. But again, it's the number one rule with this. Well, two number one rules is one and two: practice, 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 and secondly, time, 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 time. And the more time you take with doing everything, whether that's just paving, whether that's just rock work, trees, coasters, supports, anything, that time that you invest in it shows at the end. And it is unfortunately as simple as that. The more time you put into something, it just looks phenomenal on this game. It really, really does.
Hmm. So nice entrance here, Ragnar. I think is how
This
you
looks good.
pronounce that. I like the little details. I know this model is like Terran, but just using those thick wooden beams or whatever those are, and just having them different heights, different levels, turn sideways. It just adds. It's a basic piece that literally just adds a little bit of
And it's the
theming. It looks
simple
nice.
architecture to go with it as
Really
well.
well done.
It's not overly done. It's just wall pieces again, just lined with timber. It just works really, really well.
Hmm. It is amazing how I'm sure you think this way too, but it's like anytime you build a coaster and the coaster's just sitting there, it's like, oh, this looks okay. But then it's like once you've been done theming it or doing everything you're doing with the coaster, it's amazing how
Well,
different it
yeah,
looks. And it's
yeah.
just like, oh, it's came from nothing to all of a sudden
I know
this.
exactly what you mean, and I don't mean to go on, but my last park one coaster was called Ghost. I built that coaster, just built it. There was no rhyme, no reason behind it. I just wanted to have hang time on it, and that was it. And it went in and out of the ground, and I left it
Hmm.
for must have been about 4.5 months, just sitting there in the ground whilst I started theming everything else. And then lo and behold, it's the best coaster in the park. It's phenomenal. But when you first rode it with nothing on it, it didn't look right. But then when you finally finish it off and start putting things next
Right.
to it, going in and out of the ground, through buildings, through tunnels, through graveyards, before you know it, it looks something like this, just a highly detailed, immersive coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's normally how it turns out. But um, yeah, I mean, as we ride this coaster, it's impressive to work on a park for as long as you did. Um, but that's one of those. It's like bittersweet when you get done building that
I always
park.
struggle with the last month. It's always the last month that's a struggle.
Yeah.
You think you're done, but you're never done.
Have you ridden
No, it's
Terran by any
on the
chance?
list. Something I want to go to is at Phantasialand. We were planning, I think it was 2020, to do a European tour that summer. Of the like Holland, go over to Germany, down to Spain, and then back up through France. But obviously, COVID hit, and subsequently, since then, life's been a little bit upside
Yeah.
down. So we're hopefully over the next year or two going to be doing something like these and riding all these great coasters that everybody's been on, and what inspires this coaster, which is great.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, what are your
Brilliant.
thoughts on this
Loved it.
coaster?
Again, a huge amount of
Yeah,
track in such a
agreed.
small area, and it is very, very Terran-esque, very Terran-esque. But I wouldn't say it's a replica because I wouldn't want it to be. But that was just a great representation of something of that style. Brilliant, brilliant coaster.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the way it goes in and out of the ground and how it's kind of like dug out in the ground is just really, really well done. And then just the couple extra structures that have been built to interact with the coaster and dual launch, how like one's slightly above the other, but they're kind of around the same area is nice. Part of me feels like Terran in real life. Like I do want to ride it, but part of me feels almost like I might be disappointed because it's like it doesn't go upside down. It doesn't necessarily seem that thrilling. I guess it's probably just the fact that it's like it's down inside a pit,
I
and
think it's
you're so many near, so many quick
yeah.
turns.
I think it's just like when you build a
Yeah,
coaster in the game. You build a coaster and you think, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that kind of works. I'll leave that. And then when you come back to it and you start putting walls up against it, you put a building over a certain section, it all starts to kind of come together, doesn't it? And one prime example I
mm-hmm.
always use of that exact situation, what you're saying, is Space Mountain in Florida. If you've ever had the fortunate
Yep,
instance of actually riding it in the light instead of the dark when the lights are on, it's not a good ride. It's boring. You ride it in the dark, it's completely different. And to me, that's the same
totally
aspect.
different.
It's the same thing. It's all about theming, all about the theme. And if you can make a
Mm-hmm.
bad coaster
Yeah,
feel brilliant with theming. You really can.
yeah, agreed. So we got about 1 minute left. So as we're seeing some of the night views right now, not a ton of I don't know what I was zooming in on right there, but
It's very nicely lit. It's lit in the right places. It does the job. The park's great overall. I think from a coaster aspect, they've got everything in there. I'd probably say the invert just needed slowing down a tad or slightly, a slightly different layout
mm-hmm.
to suit the speed. But overall, great park. I mean, the saturation with the lights here maybe could have been turned down a tad. It's one thing I always try and do with the lighting. So if like I want to have a yellow light, I select the darker yellow just purely because it doesn't have that kind of just color burnt when you look out. But that's
Yeah,
not a negative. That's just
agreed.
an advisory, really. But the layouts, the scenic views of the park, top notch for what you can do. From what I hear on console, it's a very, very good park.
I totally agree with you 100%, and I really thank you so much for joining me on this, and
No
everybody,
worries. Thanks for having me.
of course. And so make sure to go check out Ryan's YouTube channel, as it's RyRy2312, as puts up some amazing content. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure to leave a like and hit the subscribe button, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Ryan.
Cheers, guys. All the best.